Releasing in Australian cinemas is the latest exhibition on screen film, produced by Seventh Art Productions. In fact, Phil Grabsky, and who wrote and co-wrote and co-directed Michelangelo, Love and Death. And it's my great pleasure to be speaking to Phil right now, all about producing Michelangelo, Love and Death.
Hello.
Welcome.
How you,
Yeah,
good to
good
talk
to
to you again, Peter.
you too on the movie Metropolis. Now, tell me about more about releasing this film because I saw it was made in 2017.
So there are pluses and minuses of this genre of event cinema. Event cinema, opera, ballet, we do art. The great thing about it is that anybody can go to the cinema now across Australia and see opera from London, theatre from London, New York, Paris, wherever, and our art programs. But of course, to get this into the cinemas, cinema programming has become much more checkerboard, as you know. So
Hmm.
you might have we do have 3 or 4 times as many films in the cinema at any one time now, which basically means that our films are shown for 2 nights or 3 nights and then they're gone. So when we release a film, which we've worked very hard on and really tried to make something with a lasting legacy, lasting value, we know that maybe 5 or 10,000 people have seen it across Australia, but that leaves hundreds of thousands who maybe were busy, didn't know about it, or maybe have just progressed in the last 8 years to having more of an interest in art. Maybe they've seen some of our other films and realize, yeah, actually, films about these extraordinary artists in the cinemas are great. Much better to see a film like this than to see Tom Cruise shooting and killing another 100 people. So we get asked to encore our films, and we've now made 39, so there's plenty of choice. What prompted us to encore Michelangelo was a couple of things. First of all, although anniversaries are a bit, you know, so what at times, but it is his 550th birthday. But also, I think that, like so many of the films in a way, but when I finished working on Michelangelo with David Bickerstaff, my longtime collaborator on so many of these films, I did think to myself, I wonder if this is the greatest artist of all time. I just think the sculptures are, I mean, I've said this to you before. One of the things I try to convey with these films is this extraordinary ability that we have as humans. And I have yet to have been, it hasn't been proven to me that on those millions or billions of planets that there's any other life creating art. There might be, I've no idea, but it hasn't been proven. So we are, to my mind, unique. And yes, it's very easy to destroy things, unfortunately, and it's very easy to open the newspapers, turn on the television, and see the destructive powers of men and women. But let's look at the creative, constructive individuals like Michelangelo. You look at the Pietà in the Vatican, it is almost beyond human understanding. And then there's the Sistine Chapel and so on and so
Hmm.
forth. So we thought within our this year's season, we thought this was a great film to re-release. And as I said, I reckon for 98% of people in Australia and your audience listening into Movie Metropolis, they wouldn't have necessarily seen it before, so it'll be a new film to them.
Yes. Oh, no, fair enough. It's a beautifully produced film as always, and I was so impressed. Now, you must answer me this question because it sort of came up for me during the your film. Is it Michelangelo or Michelangelo?
Well, it's interesting because right now we're Michelangelo.
Right. Okay.
I've been doing some lecturing, and I just did a series of lectures, a weekend course on Leonardo, Raphael, and I thought to myself, I better find out. Is it Michelangelo or Michelangelo? And I've landed on Michelangelo. Yeah.
Fair enough. No, no, that's fine. It's just I got both versions during the documentary with the various interviews and curators and so on. So, yeah, Michelangelo, got it. Okay. Now, and the title is Michelangelo, Love and Death. It's there's some extraordinary sculptures, of course, the Statue of David and so on. It's and everything is so beautifully shot as you always do
Mm.
in presenting the artworks and illustrations and sculptures and everything else. And that always takes a lot of time to prepare and to shoot.
I think we've done over 200 films. I mean, you can find them on our seventh-art.com website. But within Exhibition on Screen, we've done 39 now, and we're filming in high definition for one thing. They look great in the cinema. That's the place to see them.
Mm.
But we always try very hard with the visuals. I think of all those 39 films, one of my some of the footage that to me is most precious was the shoot in Carrara. Now let's just step back a second. Again, you have to think about this extraordinary planet. There are very few mountains where when you dig beneath the surface, they offer up lapis lazuli. Just so happens one of the very few is in Afghanistan. And if you think about it, it's not grey rock that they've suddenly discovered. It's this beautiful blue. Similarly with Carrara, you scrape away the surface, and what do they find many hundreds or thousands of years ago? But this pure white rock. And not only that, but it transpires that it is absolutely ideal for sculpting, in that you can sculpt it and then it will last. It doesn't deteriorate. It is the most extraordinary thing. Michelangelo famously would go and spend weeks, and the fact that they say months sometimes, waiting for the block of marble that he just thought, from the look of it, had no imperfections. The worst thing that can happen, of course, is you start carving a rectangular block of marble, and then there's a fault line within it. For those of your audience that don't know, um, uh, the way that they do this is it's basically a mountain, and they have a little wedge that goes in, and they knock that little wedge in. It causes a tiny little crack, and then into that little crack they put a slightly bigger wedge, and then a slightly bigger wedge, and eventually a whole, basically a whole slice of the side of the mountain just slips down, and then people go and have a look and see what the quality of that white marble is. So we went there. They are still to this day excavating the marble, and they are still to this day. There are workshops around there that are sculpting marble, and we filmed this guy sculpting, which was great because you just get a sense of what it must have been like for Michelangelo. And then there is this one of the best interviews we have ever done with this woman who's talking about Michelangelo and how it was when he was sculpting David. Bash, 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 surrounded with curtains. No one was allowed to see. No one knew what was going on. So and I think also one of the things which I would purport is very important about Exhibition on Screen is that we do our research and we're accurate. The BBC recently did a £1.8 million three-part series with PBS in America. And they have this scene in it where Michelangelo is rubbing his hands on this pure rectangular huge block of marble from which he's going to carve David. It's not true. It's not even that much of a secret. Somebody else had been given the commission 25, 30 years earlier, had already drilled holes and cut into that block of marble, then given up. And that block had stayed in the courtyard of the cathedral in Florence for 25 years until Michelangelo came along and thought, actually, I can do something with this. So stories like that make Exhibition on Screen films, I think, very exciting. And I think that, we had with this one something really visceral to film as well, which was very exciting.
Yes. Oh, it is. It looks great. And as you say, high definition, it's definitely worth seeing in a cinema because it really glows in insofar
Yeah.
as so much of the artwork is just incredible. And what always is so interesting is the way you weave a story into this with narration, with great photography of cinematography of Italy and other places, and of sculptures, as I mentioned, and other works, and so on. So it's putting all that together, filming it in such a way that invites the audience to
Yeah. It's
appreciate.
it's storytelling.
Yes.
And we have, the words of Michelangelo. We have the greatest experts. We have this great art, and we tell it. In this case, not always the case, but in this case, it is the biography of one of the greatest artists of all time, and it's totally engaging. It's totally enthralling. Nobody is too busy to not spend 90 minutes in the company of one of these extraordinary stories.
Hmm.
Mm. So I urge your audience to come and see it.
And I also love the way you interpolate music into your films, and there's a lovely sequence of operatic singing. I think
Yeah,
it's
music
operatic.
of the period, right? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
beautifully integrated, which just sets the documentary off even more into something that's quite special.
yeah. No, that was very good. You're going to have to forgive me because somebody's trying to get into my front door. Um, I don't know if you want to wrap it up or whether I come back in. This is going to take 20 minutes, I can tell. They're delivering a fridge,
Oh
and
my
I'm the only one
God.
here.
Okay, well maybe we'd better wrap it up because I don't think I can hold on for 20 minutes. That's
Okay.
not good. All right, so it's re-releasing in Australia in Australian cinemas, Michelangelo Love and Death, in the next few weeks. Or yep, which is fantastic, Phil. And as always, great to talk to you. And I always appreciate your films and our
Fantastic.
discussions.
Thank you so much, and we'll talk again.
We will. All the best then, and enjoy your
Cheers.
fridge. Okay, bye
Bye now. Bye bye.
bye.